8 years ago, three of us started a podcast, a Star Wars podcast on this very time slot that would go on for half a decade. And now here we are 8 years later. And some people that watch the channel have been clamoring for the old style, sit down, shoot the shit, let the show go off the rails type show. And well, we're here to welcome you to the geek side. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and this is Welcome to the Geekside, live here on Fandom Empire. And joining me right off the bat here, he's the man behind Bros Before Pros. I don't know what the last thing he played was over there. You'd have to let us know. It's Johnny. What's going on, man? You're like way over here. I can't reach you.
Well, I hope not. We're in different locations. Very, very different locations.
I'm trying to say I'm too fat to be Mr. Fantastic. Is that where you're going with that?
Mr. Fantastic would just make himself taller and not be fat. So
that one didn't work. Anyways, what's up?
Nah, not much. Not much at all. I'm tired.
Well, it is 10:21 p.m. Eastern. I don't know how years ago we did 3 to 4 hour Star Wars shows that didn't start until about 20 minutes ago. I definitely don't have that left in my gas tank anymore, that's for sure. Also joining us tonight, he is the man behind Dark Match Drive. Haven't seen him in a little bit. Jared, what's going on, man?
Hello. Yes, it is 10:21 p.m. and I should have been in bed an hour ago.
Early morning, huh?
Yes. But I had to skip and watch Dynamite.
Was it good at least? I didn't watch.
It was awesome. Probably one of the best episodes they've ever done.
Awesome.
Yes.
Time to do it. Also joining us, he is a co-host at The Legacy of Star Wars. You probably heard us last night. It's Randy. What's going on, man?
Not a whole lot. Just, another Wednesday. I'm not as caught up on Dynamite yet. I still got about 20 minutes left in it because D&D ran late tonight. So I'm looking forward to catching up on that when we're done here.
Do you know what the main event was? Who's in it?
Actually, I was just getting through the whole Christian and Edge promo, but
they've already said who the main event is. You just must have missed it.
Probably. Just one of those things, I guess. But it's all, like I said, it's still got 20 minutes left, so I know that's exactly what it's going to be.
Also joining us this evening, he is a co-host of That Fandom Show. He's also a moderator at the channel, moderator on Facebook, admin on Facebook, actually. It's Mr. Matt Whitfield. What's going on, man? You're still up. Might be a good time to place long bets.
Might also be a good time to unmute yourself.
I did. Yeah. I'm like Jer. I should have been asleep an hour ago. But I'm going to take a sleeping pill around 11 o'clock, and I'm going to take care of that.
Ugh. Be safe with that shit, man. Be safe. And also joining us, he was a co-host of Fandom Empire Live. He was also the host of the Rick and Morty fan show here on Fandom Empire. It's Kieran. Or at least it's somebody with the back of his head. What's going on?
I'm
man?
home.
I didn't know this was
I'm
happening.
home. Eh?
You prick.
Well, yours sounded a lot less hypocritical. I'll say that. What's going on, man? Long time no see.
I mean, I'd be lying if I said it was a great day today, but whatever, whatever. We're here. It's time to get this going and do my favorite type of podcasting, the one that goes off the rails and crazy shit happens. That was always my favorite.
Well, as he said Monday night, hell froze over, and CM Punk returned to the WWE Saturday night. Let's just start our conversation with this. Johnny, I'll let you go because I know you've been waiting for a bit to dive into this one. You can start it and just jump in as we go here, guys. Your initial reaction to the return. Are you surprised it happened, and where do you think it's going? Let's just dive right in.
I mean, surprised? Yes and no. I mean, I was shocked it happened when it happened, I guess. I was not expecting it at that point. Once the copyright popped up in the pay-per-view, I was pretty much, oh, well, okay. That's about what I expected. And then the music hit and he came out and I was like, well, I didn't expect this. So, I wasn't expecting it then. I certainly thought it was in the cards, possibility, especially now with the TKO merger and everything. But my opinion's still the same as it was a month ago, 2 months ago. This is stupid. I don't care. There's 3 matches in the company for him that I actually am interested in seeing. And once he's done with those 3, I don't care anymore. There's nothing there that interests me.
Oh, come on. There's got to be more that interests you than just 3
There's
matches.
not. There's 3 matches. I want to see him with Shinsuke. I want to see him with Seth. And I want to see him with AJ. That's it.
That's a fantastic opinion for a show.
I'm not interested in it. I am
So we have started off with like a optimistic person.
I am so not interested in seeing same. I'm not interested in seeing him and Randy again. I'm not interested in seeing him and Cena again. Yes, there'll be good matches. I'm not denying the quality's going to be there, but they're not matches that excite me. They don't interest me. And of the members of the Shield, the 2 that are left are probably there's one of them I actually want to see him work. Because I don't.
You're not sold on Punk versus Grayson Waller?
Here's my problem. I don't even know who that is. Like
The problem is the matches that I'd be interested in seeing Punk have in WWE are matches he's never going to have. Because they're not going to put him with guys in the mid-card or lower. They're not going to let him go out there with Ricochet. They're not going to let him go out there with Chad Gable. Those are matches I'd love to see, but they're matches that we'll never, ever, ever see.
You might see him as a warm-up.
I
can see Gable. I don't know about Ricochet.
I could see Gable. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if you do, it would be like some
I don't know.
6-minute TV squash match that does nothing for anybody. It'd be a TV match, and they don't give TV matches time.
You know what
I'm not sure.
love to see?
They got 3 hours and
I'd love to see
27
him
minutes
fight
per week
Gunther.
of wrestling.
Oh, that would be fun. Watch Punk get
Because
stiffed
he'd
for
get
20
chopped.
minutes.
Okay, yes,
That's
that's
a good
that's,
match.
And then he'd be like, I quit.
If
All
he
right,
still
I'll
had
give you
his
that
live
one. That's
journal, he'd be
4.
all over it.
that's 4 matches that I care about that he could have. Gunther on that list. You're right. I forgot about him.
You don't see anybody on down in NXT that he can match up well with?
Thought that's gonna get over. Like, not that I want to see him with. I mean, maybe Carmelo Hayes if he gets up and gets a push, but he's just as likely to get the Cameron Grimes and be called up and never be seen again. Like him and Braun Breaker doesn't do it
happens.
for me.
No, that
He's
doesn't
the only
do it
guy
for
in
me either.
NXT that I think is going to break the glass ceiling.
You don't
Yeah,
want to
that is-
see him face the family? What about Chase U?
I mean, sure, that'd be a great match. You know, him and which one
NXT
of
is
the
trash.
which one of the brothers is Chase? Chase is one of Grandma's boys, right?
I totally don't share that opinion that Jeremy has. We talk about it all the time. I like the NXT.
I
There's
like
a lot of
NXT.
guys I like down
Oh,
there.
Yeah, I'm gonna eat on my pasta and watch the wrestling. Fuck off.
Honestly, I think the biggest problem I have is like almost everybody that you mentioned outside of Ricochet. I have no fucking clue who they are. I have not watched in a decade, so it's like it's hard because like even though Punk's not in AEW anymore, and I am a Punk guy, it's like I think I'd rather watch the other roster. If I'm being honest,
Dude, that was the first full episode of Raw that I've watched in probably over a year. Straight up from beginning to end. Because again, what was I going to watch? Minnesota versus Chicago? That was a barn burner of a
I'd
game.
rather watch that than Monday Night Raw.
Shit, I wouldn't.
That Raw was the shit.
Yeah, I was kind of disappointed. I figured they'd really build it up a little bit better, given you're getting Punk and Orton's return. And I mean, I liked the opening segment with Orton. I think his promo was good, and I think his interaction with Rhea Ripley was great. But when it came to Punk, you know, here's the thing: Punk is good for wrestling when it's good Punk. When it's bad Punk, when it's ego-driven Punk, we have issues. The promo was kind of lackluster, but maybe that was on purpose. Maybe. Or maybe it's just the fact he really is there to just cash a paycheck, and that's really it.
There's also a time push, too. There's really a time push.
But even with
I don't know.
that,
He could have
still could have said more than he did.
there was like that was like a basic, like that was like a generic promo you like hand off to your guys at the performance center, be like, hey, read this and see if you can make it good. And he's like, oh yes, I'm home. I love all of you people here. I will be fighting wrestlers and I hope you enjoy it. Yeah. It was very, very lame. I'm actually very excited to see CM Punk in WWE because I was excited to see him in AEW. And then I hated almost, other than the dog collar match, I hated his entire AEW run. Like, I didn't like almost any of the matches. His match with Samoa Joe was okay, but I know a lot of people liked it. I didn't really like it that much. I don't like that he was like, oh, I'm just going to use Macho Man and Hulk Hogan's finishers and matches now, and I'm just going to do a bunch of Bret Hart stuff. And like, I don't know, I hated his entire AEW run. However, we're back to him like rejoining, coming back, whatever. I have kind of the same feeling I did when he came back to AEW, which is like, oh yeah, I hope this is really good, because I used to be a really big CM Punk fan. So I like, just like Punk has kind of erased AEW from his mind coming into this promo, so have I been like, I'll just pretend that AEW never happened for him. Like, we'll scratch that off the cards, and yeah, he's home now. But I really hated the promo because in AEW he buried WWE. He buried them all the time. Like, he once like replied to a tweet from the Miz saying that they were like, you know, going to Saudi Arabia and get their blood money and blah blah blah, and like he said a bunch of shit about AEW, and then he came back and was like, I'm home. Like that's like it makes no sense. And CM Punk's fans are all hardcore fans. They're not. I don't think they're casual people, so they all know this. So I don't know, but I'm excited for it. I hope that they are able to protect him and have good matches, because I don't think he has a lot left in the tank body-wise, but he can still really tell stories because he's really good at that.
Because that's something WWE is so well known for in the 2020s.
Well, one major
Well, I mean, stories in the ring. His story out of the ring, he'll figure, like, as long as it's not that terrible promo that just happened, if he, like, I mean, he's probably going to fight Seth, and that's probably going to be good because they do seem to hate each other. So if they both want to make money and they can get that feud over, I'm sure it'll be good. I'm sure the matches will be good because Seth could fight a pillowcase and it would be great. So, you know, I'm pretty optimistic about it, which is, you know, the first time I've been optimistic about CM Punk in 1.5 to 2 years.
Well, that was the one big difference between the two promos is Punk did his big Raw return AEW promo, and then the last 3 minutes of it was a promo on Darby Allin. So by the end of that segment, Punk had a direction. You knew Punk was going to face Darby Allin, and that's where he was going. This time, it's like, oh, if you don't like me backstage, tough shit. Okay. Punk still has no direction, and it's Wednesday night. So, you know, it just feels like it didn't serve a purpose other than, I'm home. Well, that doesn't sell tickets. That doesn't do anything.
He didn't even get the I'm here to work with the Seth Rollinses and the Shinsuke. You know, he didn't even get that.
I heard David LaGreca. He, excuse me. He'd mentioned he thought the promo was designed to, if you, and again, I had to go back and watch it myself, and I'm with all you. Like I got to the end of it, I was kind of like, wow, okay, that was okay, you know, and probably only okay because he has good delivery on what he does, but there is nothing of substance there, in my opinion, which is kind of a problem. Although, and the other side of this problem is you just blew social media away with the biggest wrestling anything ever, period. And you followed that up with giving a guy 8 minutes in a 3-hour show.
8 minutes to do nothing.
Yeah, I like it. And the entrance, I think I timed it to, by the time he actually talks, is like 2 minutes in. So like he had basically 5 and change. That doesn't seem very smart. I don't know if any of that had to do Triple H wasn't there or what, but David LaGreca said he thought if you go back and listen to the promo, he says everybody in the back was happy to see him. He doesn't say he was happy to see everybody else. And then at the very end, he says, I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to make money. And he was, again, I don't know how anybody's positioned in WWE, so forgive me, but he was making the case that they are short on top heels right now. So does Punk go heel quickly rather than down the road? I don't know. To me, that seems like he's fishing. But I, too, was disappointed in the promo. I also, though, think half the audience set themselves up for failure by thinking that Punk was going to go out there and slam AEW and slam Tony Khan and slam the Young Bucks. That was never, ever, ever going to happen on WWE TV. And this is coming from a guy that hasn't watched it in a fucking decade. And at the end of the day, I'd still say mission accomplished. You know, the ratings were way up.
Yeah, but they weren't. It's a
Yeah,
misnomer. They were up, but they weren't up for the quarter hour. They lost 300,000 fans in the final quarter hour,
which is less than what they normally do. See, this is one point I want to make. And I'm not saying Johnny's doing this, but to me, this is a problem here. Johnny, I think we would all agree. He just said he has no interest in what CM Punk does in WWE. I think people get so fixated on something. I'm not referring to Johnny specifically, but just people in general. I said it to Randy in a chat today that when people don't want something or people don't like something, and I've been guilty of this in the past. The guy over to the left of me here has been guilty of it with a certain Star Wars actor too. But like, I think it's easy to shit on something if you don't want to see it in a positive light. And at the end of the day, I don't think the numbers lie. The rating is up 29%, and the rating is up, 34 or 35% in the key demographic. Not to mention 95% of people that watch Raw do not look at a SRS report of what the show layout's going to be. They don't. And so you're coming off Punk debuting. Most people think Punk is going to open the show. You look at social media yesterday, until Fightful put out what the order was, everybody thought Punk was opening the show. I would say it would be really hard for me to sit through 3 hours too.
But that's the thing, though. You don't have to sit through the whole show. Like, even if you just break it down into the quarter hours, you assume he's either in the opening or he's in the main event. Those are the only two spots, right? If you eliminate the other 2.5 hours of this show, you still have 1/2 hour where you're either in the first 15 or you're in the last 15. If you come for the first 15 minutes, okay, it's not Punk. You come for the last 15 if that's what you're there for. They were still 100,000 people short of the average for the final quarter hour.
Those poor people had to sit there live through the other 2.5 hours.
Let's not forget, so AEW's rating is like almost always 850, like 850,000 is almost always that. And when Punk was there, it was about 100,000 people plus. So it would go between line 50 and a million, right? Not all the time. He didn't always command that many fans, but that's the impact that someone could say he made, even if you believe, you can't say he brought in an extra million fans because he didn't. Like that's measurable. But anyway, so if you're operating on the idea that he can bring in maybe 100,000 people, 100,000 added on to the 850 is like, whoa, that's fucking 10%. Raw fluctuates fucking more than Dynamite makes. So I don't think we're going to be able to measure how many people came in to see CM Punk because their show fluctuates from a 1 to a 2. Okay. I don't think we're going to be able to really measure that other than the fact that social media was crazy.
That's the thing I'll say. There's the social media aspect of this. The debut, it's Wednesday. It's 3 days. It's got 3.4 million views. That's the Sunday debut. It's Wednesday. The Raw promo, 64,000.
I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that when people are, going on X or Instagram or anything like that, 9 times out of 10, if you're looking for that sort of stuff, you're also following maybe Fightful or Wrestling Observer or something, and you're going to see everybody's opinions on it. Where a lot of it's mixed. It's half and half. You have half of people thinking it wasn't a bad promo and they want to see what's going to happen. Yeah, a bunch of people saying it stunk and that it was just what was this? Why was it so generic? But the main consensus is it's just a wait and see at this point. Everybody reiterated that it was only 5 to 8 minutes, and that. Yeah, and I really do think because of all that on social media that a lot of people just didn't bother viewing it because they're like, well, if it's boring or if it's generic, that's not Punk. That's not what I'm used to. Why would I go searching for it?
Well,
that could be part of it.
The number was not accurate. The number is 2.3 million.
They posted it twice.
So
in the second one.
But that's my point, though. And again, I don't believe for a second Johnny's doing this on purpose. But we've all dealt with people in fandom, and I don't know how the wrestling world is. You guys would know that more than me. But people are so quick to, if they think something is negative, they got to find whatever evidence they can to point it out to be a negative. We were talking to Johnny last night, and someone had posted a rating that you'd seen that definitely does not line up with the rating that came out today. And it's just like, I just think people need to be more sensitive in terms of where they get their information from, because it's really easy to paint something in a negative light. That being said, whatever the ratings ended up being on TV, think about the social media exposure they've already gotten from this guy, whether it's Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. These are all things they make tons of money off of. I know we've made a little bit of money here, so, and that pales in comparison. They've in one day probably made 100 times what we've, or 1,000 times what we've ever made on the channel. So like that stuff does matter. Social media engagement does matter in today's world anyway. Not that it means his run's going to be any more successful.
It's going to be it's going to be a win. It's going to be a win for sure because one, they're going to sell that black version of the CM Punk shirt 700 million goddamn times. Like they're going to make a ton of money off of that. He's probably going to get injured, and he's probably going to beat the shit out of fucking some referee or something like that. It's probably going to happen, but he's probably going to make it to WrestleMania, and that's really, I think, all they need. I think Hunter would be smart to just be like, you know what? Like, I'm sure he can hang on to this for 5 months and then fight Seth Rollins at Mania. And we're going to sell that shirt like crazy. We're going to have the rights to CM Punk stuff. Like, it's going to be fine. And either it turns out better and he's around for 2 years and he's great and he has a good championship run, or he makes it to Mania. He wins or loses against Seth Rollins and then he fucking beats the shit out of fucking, Cameron Grimes, right? And they're going to make money off of this. It's going to be good. It's a win-win situation for Hunter, I think, unless he beats someone within the next 2 months, then, I think he'll be fine. And apparently there's some sort of behavior clause in his contract, I heard today, which is not confirmed, but I think there's likely that's a thing. With his history, I'm sure they were able to put that in there. Like, we get to get all our money back if you're a fucking asshole. So honestly, I think it's a win for WWE. I think it's a win for fans because in WWE right now as well, there's so many things I don't want to see in WWE. I watch it still right now, but it's not like Punk is pushing out a bunch of great stuff right now. So invite him in, see what he can do, make money. If he sucks, then he'll be gone. I mean, if it's not going well for WWE, it probably won't be going well for him, and then he'll turn into a fucking lunatic again. And so I think it works out perfectly.
Yeah. The real barometer, okay, the rating was good. But
your name is Matt?
Has been pointed out. Like Matt said, they were against a shitty Monday Night Football game. That has to be taken into account. It's the highest rating since August. It's also the last time they weren't up against Monday Night Football. And they were against a Thursday Night Football game on a Monday.
Highest in the demo since the Raw After Mania, too. Highest in Canada since the Raw After Mania in 2022. Not the Canadian ratings really all that matters all that much. Matt, what do you want to get in, dude?
You have professional company running WWE. You have a child.
Oh, that's ridiculous.
No. Hear me out.
Hang on. Let me preface this by saying this. We're all friends here. It's all good, but by all means, have at it.
His father did the same shit with the Jags. He had to put his hands all there. He had to have his. What happened once he pulled off his hands and let everybody else start doing things? Look what's going on now.
Yeah, the person running AEW is the person running the Jags, and the Jags are a good organization, but AEW isn't. How does that make sense?
No, what I'm saying is
Tony is the president of the Jags.
But you know what? They don't have their hands all in it like they used to. His father always wanted to pull a GM, always wanted to change a coach. He was doing that. And who did he learn it from? His daddy. I don't think he truly knows how to run AEW.
Have you looked at
AEW's hold on.
Have you looked at
AEW's
European
being
soccer
carried by the
team?
wrestlers. AEW's being carried by the wrestler. He's head of creative. Really? He's not. And the one more thing, I'm not going to stay on here long. Him saying he's feared for his fucking life when he came out with that shit with CM Punk. Give me a freaking break. I mean, I like what AEW is as far as the wrestlers and the stories they put out. But if you want to give Tony Khan all this fucking credit, fuck no. I won't.
Matt, you gotta get that one right though. So that one at the end. So put up your hands, everyone here, if you've been in any sort of fight. You've been in any sort of fight? Yeah, like anything, any sort of fight at all. Okay. Have you ever seen a person who's never been in any sort of fight get in a physical confrontation? That's what happens. Like,
I mean, we've all seen.
if you've ever seen someone get out of their car and rush after someone that you know who's never heard a fly, they're afraid for their life. I'm not going to go on and explain these things, but like we all have friends who are not at all physical and whatever. And
okay,
like it.
An
if
angry guy
CM
that's
Punk,
a foot and a half taller,
someone who has
100
had a
pounds heavier than
professional
you,
fight in his life,
terrified.
it would be terrifying. I know. Like, I know a lot of guys who have been in fights because I'm around the crowd of martial arts and boxing and stuff like that. But I also know people who have never, like, bothered anyone. And they, like, I had a friend who literally just fucking fell over like this when a guy charged at him one time. Like the guy was running at him and his move was to go. He just fucking fell down like a board. He was so scared.
Play dead works against a bear, it'll work against a human, right?
like
was he hyper?
I don't know. Like I get the idea that people are like everyone, all the keyboard people are like, oh, he feared for his life. Yeah, he feared for his life. A known, at least semi-tough guy came at a guy who probably has never had to deal with anything hard in his entire life. So yeah, I believe that story.
Even if you take it on hyperbole and then be like, okay, your life was not in danger, calm down. But him being fucking terrified is justified. Punk's what, a foot and a half taller and 100+ pounds heavier with a background as a legitimate martial artist? Like that, you know, if the Big Show comes up to me, if Paul White comes up to me and is pissed off, I'm going to be terrified. Regardless.
Why? Just kick him in the knee.
Or hit him, punch him in the nuts.
Or what's left of it. Yeah, I don't know.
His knees or his nuts.
Tony Khan probably has never cleaned his own room before. Like, he was born a billionaire. He's probably done nothing scary in his point. He's probably done nothing scary in his life.
It goes to the point, like I was saying. The Jags haven't started flourishing till Daddy took his hands off.
And who put his hands on? Tony. I don't know the point you're making.
No.
Tony is the president of football operations for the Jacksonville Jaguars and has been since 2019, 2020.
Yeah, but he's not making coach.
Who do you think is then?
Shit. He's not doing shit. Balky is.
Who hired Balky?
Daddy.
This has immediately made this whole show worth it. This is exactly what I was hoping would happen.
You just wanted total chaos. That's what you
basically
wanted.
Right. Yeah, it's entertaining.
Your logic is I'm going to point to his inaccuracy in one field, but point to his accuracy in another field and say that the same person isn't the same person on both sides. Like
what I'm saying is
his
dad.
Your reasoning here is hold on. Your reasoning here is he made the right decision. Let's Balky make the decisions in football. Great. Tony didn't make the decision to fire Punk. Brian Danielson and 2 independent lawyers made the decision to fire him, not Tony Khan.
No, that's not true. They gave the recommendation for termination. Tony Khan.
Right.
Tony Khan was going to do whatever that board told him to do.
I believe
he's not that stupid.
That's fair.
He's like it. Whatever the board's recommendation was, is what he was going to do because that at the end of the day is the right decision. If you have an independent arbitration board that makes a decision, the right call is to stand behind that decision because you chose them to make that decision. Whatever Roger Goodell does is irrelevant in this conversation. Because his idea is the exact opposite
the
of that.
police thread, and that makes him cooler than anyone here.
I mean, Fightful said today on their 3 p.m. show that not only was Punk already aware that Bryan Danielson was in with that committee, Punk expected to be fired. He expected to be fired, and there's no ill will against Bryan Danielson. Like at this point, and I think John, I can't remember if you, Randy, and I talked about this last night.
Yes, we were talking about it last night when he showed up at Raw. Yeah.
He showed up. It's one thing to show up at Impact or New Japan or whatever the place
the other
in
places
was
he was
called.
spotted at.
But he showed up at a WWE building and went to talk to Triple H.
Not even a house show.
Like, come on. And then a few months later, he's gone. And given, like, say what you want about Punk, he's an intelligent dude. I think he knew exactly what he was doing, and for right or wrong, I think a lot of it wrong. It's just hard to sit here and go, the dude didn't want out. I think he wanted out, and I think he got out. And
he wanted out for a year before he got out.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because, like, for me, I'd rather watch CM Punk in AEW, but
What happens when you let the inmates from the asylum?
Because that's what Punk was doing.
Punk hasn't even seen Rocky.
No,
Punk was the inmate running the asylum for the month of August 2 years ago. Punk's AEW stay ended at, was it All In 2020? All Out 2020?
no, that'd be
Bryan Danielson walked through the curtain.
Are you talking about when Danielson and Cole both walked through the curtain?
Yeah. When Bryan
That
Danielson
was
walked through the curtain,
2021.
that okay.
was it?
Punk's, yeah.
Holy shit!
It makes sense. 2 years ago.
Yeah.
That was when Punk's run ended, when Bryan Danielson walked through that curtain. Because Bryan Danielson had A, the respect of Tony Khan, and B, the respect of the entire locker room. Not a small segment of it, but every single person in that locker room respected Bryan. Punk never had that. He had the respect of some, but not the respect of all.
I'll disagree. I mean, I agree. I'm sorry. I agree with you on that.
Punk was looking for a way out after that. He saw the writing on the wall. He expected this haven of wrestling for him. He is, to me, CM Punk is Grandpa Simpson in the conversation with Homer. You're it. I used to be hip, and one day what was hip changed, and I'm not hip. And one day it'll happen to you. Well, Jim Cornette said it to Punk. Now it's happened to Punk. And eventually it'll happen to the Bucks. And eventually it'll happen to... It happens to everybody. The wrestling world passes you by. And that's it.
Just spokes on a wheel.
It happened to Crush.
I think Crush.
Wow, that's going back.
Prison happened to Crush, though. That was his problem.
I think-
He got out and beat up Steve Carino.
I think it's kind of happened to the Bucks. It's funny you mentioned that. I feel like they're going to need to do something incredibly different to ever be relevant again. I think.
Well, I guess
They're
that's
turning
why
heel
what
and killed that YouTube
Yeah.
show. Now they're interesting again.
well, they filed a few trademarks for like killing the business and things like that. So
that was the
we'll
name
see.
of their book, though.
But I mean, that's what I think it's what one of the trademarks they just filed for like their stable or stuff to deal with their merchandise or something. So it's going to be, I mean, they're going to be healed. They're going to form a stable. I know apparently, I don't know why you're bringing Brandon Cutler into it, but whatever.
Cutler and
He's
Cabana
funny.
do not sound interesting at all.
But I know they're going to, my guess is they're going to have other people involved too. They can't just be those three. But
Cutler
There's
is the
guys
young
sitting
buck
around
who
that need to
Bruce
do
Beefcake
something,
is to Hulk
so.
Hogan.
Yeah, I hear 7-Eleven's hiring. No,
All right, gentlemen, I'm rolling off of here.
take it easy, Matt. Thanks for coming out, dude.
All right, y'all have a good night.
you too.
Matt came here just to do that.
It's a hangout show. I just, we could go over the AEW brawl out shit for hours and hours and hours. At the end of the day, I just think it's
It's going to
horrible.
make a really great Dark Side of the Ring in 10 years.
For sure. I mean, just you could not handle a situation worse on all sides, in my opinion. That's bad. It's one thing when there's a couple of sides that handle it bad, but when it's every single person that was involved in that incident fucked up. It's
Now, how did Kenny Omega fuck up?
he shouldn't have put his hands on Larry.
I actually was not. I
No,
was
I
not.
don't know.
I feel like Omega's the only one who, after everything came out pretty good. I think I don't think it really affected him too much.
He's the only one of everyone in the group who said, "Yeah, I probably fucked up and shouldn't have done what I did."
Yeah, that's
He's
true.
He's the only.
I don't know. I don't think Kenny.
Pro. That's the Canadian in him. He's allowed to be like,
I don't think Kenny.
My bad.
I think even when Kenny's a heel, he doesn't really come across very well as a heel because he's probably a really nice guy in real life. He's probably not super extroverted. He's probably an introverted guy. He's probably really nice. So I don't know.
He's a great heel in Japan where being a heel is as easy as saying, "I'm not from here."
This is true.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, he likes anime and video games. How much more introverted can you get?
Now, what's wrong with that?
Nothing. I'm just saying they're not exactly.
I like video games and anime.
Hobbies.
Jer, we haven't heard too much from you tonight. Were you expecting him at Survivor Series? I know you sent me the clip.
I was happy with it.
You were the second.
Kieran is how I found out. I wasn't
really?
even watching the show. I was playing video games and I checked my phone and Kieran's like, "Guess Punk didn't show up."
Man.
Oh wait,
doesn't even read his own group chats.
No, not for WWE stuff. I checked out on WWE a long time ago.
You were in the Discord during the pay-per-view.
Yeah, I probably said some shit. Didn't mean I was watching it.
Well, no, but I said it in there because Kyle made a point of saying, "Like, you at me when it happens," and I added him when it happened.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I figured the reporting was pretty truthful.
You were a Forbes guy.
Nothing really came together until the last minute, and if it was going to happen, it was going to be last minute. Otherwise, it would have leaked before then. And so he showed up, and Triple H did his typical, after the copyright thing, where he's. I think people should have figured that out beforehand, because this is like the third or fourth time he's done that. Like, he's done like major heel turns after a copyright on the program.
Usually you have an idea of them coming. Like, you can feel it in the air, sort of thing.
Well, I wasn't there.
No, but that's what I'm saying. Like if you go, like the first time he did, I think Tommaso and Johnny, right? That was the first time he did it.
Yeah.
I think that was also in Chicago, wasn't it?
Chicago 2, I think.
Yeah, it was in Chicago. So I mean, that was the first time he did.
When they were at the top of the ramp there, right?
Yeah, when he just went ham and beat the crap out of him and chucked him into the Titan and everything. But like, you had a feeling in the air, like, oh, something's happening. Something's going down. You could feel it. This time, the only thing you felt was, okay, show's over.
Yeah, but they wouldn't end it on a wide shot like that.
Well, no, but they didn't put the graphic up in the wide shot. They put the graphic up on the close-up with the four guys with the arms up in the air. In the traditional, in the traditional Hogan must pose style was when the copyright went up. And then as the copyright was there, then they pulled back. And then you kind of get what are we doing? Like, are we just doing the weird pull back and show the crowd hype with them in the cage and all that so you can get like that graphic? And then they pull back further and you see the Titantron, and it's like, oh, okay, something's happening. Like, when you can see the overhead scoreboard, then it's like, okay, now something's about to happen.
I don't get this one. Someone help me.
I mean, that's valid.
That's a valid point. Also, Johnny Gargano takes a ladder to the face in that match in one of the most disgusting spots I've ever seen.
It's
like,
not that
straight
disgusting.
To the face. No hands, nothing.
It's
crazy.
Disgusting ladder to the face is Joey Mercury.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, that was... I remember that one. Ugh.
Yep.
We're watching that one live. I regret ordering that paper.
We're not getting a worse ladder to the face than that, probably ever.
That was awful.
That's true. Yeah.
I've never seen a nose explode before. Now I have.
Yeah.
So before we move on from Punk,
how about Bailey, huh? Damn.
What happened with her?
Okay, continue.
Oh, okay.
That's just a general statement on Bailey being a smoke show.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
which valid.
Listen, I watched the first like 45 minutes of Raw, and then I had a show commitment to do on here, which we strategically placed at 9. To Johnny's point earlier, I figured if Punk wasn't opening, he'd be closing, so I placed it at 9, and we went till 10, and then I think I watched from like 10:15 on. So I guess I watched like 2/3 of a Raw. That's about as good as it's going to get for me, though, bud. More than likely. So,
braver than most.
The only people watching 3 hours of Raw are bored people and people in the building.
Book Punk at Mania.
Seth Rollins.
I can do that easy.
It should and probably will be Seth Rollins, in my opinion.
Like what you would do, not necessarily what you think's going to happen.
Team him up with R-Truth, and R-Truth acts like Punk never left.
Damn, and you know he would, and he would pull it off.
R-Truth just walks up. Hey, you got eliminated from the Rumble. How you feeling?
I haven't seen you in a decade.
R-Truth comes out. R-Truth comes out with a Nexus shirt on, and he's like, "I want to join."
How about that yes movement, huh?
I would book him with Seth. That's what I would do. I mean, I would like to see everyone fight Gunther, so that's a bad answer for me. That'd like be my number one answer all the time because I want to see him fight everyone. But I would put him against Seth because that's like everyone. Like I get that Roman Reigns said something bad about him. I get that him and the Miz. I mean, you don't want to put him with the Miz, right? Like, what's the point of that?
I saw that 10 years ago.
I don't like. I think it's the right move, and I think it's the good move. I mean, I don't know if it's possible. Seth is like, I'm not like. Seth could have told Hunter like, I'm not fucking doing a goddamn thing with that guy. But I think Seth is pretty smart business wise. I think he knows that's where, like, that's going to promote him too. And I'm sure Seth, like, I think Seth might win if they fight at WrestleMania as well, which.
If Damian Priest hasn't cashed in his Money in the Bank briefcase yet.
Well, plus they both get a WrestleMania main event out of it.
If Damian Priest hasn't cashed in the briefcase yet on Seth, because I think that's the direction they're going to go.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know.
When does he?
That would be. I don't know. Yeah,
I think he's got to WrestleMania.
It's a calendar year.
Oh, okay.
But isn't Money in the Bank usually the pay-per-view after WrestleMania?
No, it's usually in June.
Okay,
so
it would be interesting though. I think
they moved it to.
What would be interesting about a match with Seth? I think that Seth, promo wise, would probably try to antagonize Punk in real life, and like it might shut down his own match because if Punk does something stupid and then gets fired, like. It would be bad for Seth too. So I don't know if it's a great idea to put them together, but I think it's what makes money. That's the
Seth is going to bring up Colt Cabana and everything's going to go off the rails.
I don't like. Well, I can see Seth like bringing out like one of
the face and say you're not
like UFC opponents and be like, hey, I'll just get this guy to protect me. He beat the shit out of you already. Like I can see Seth doing anything to spite CM Punk. So maybe it wouldn't be the best idea for Hunter, but I don't know. If it works out, that's the match that I think most people would want to see. So I don't know. That's my opinion. I would do Seth.
That's the only Mania match that makes sense.
Yeah, I think the one I want to see the most is Punk versus Roman, but it's too early there. Simply for storyline purposes, like Paul Heyman's the easy connection there. He was already brought up in the first promo. Yeah, I'd like to see that storyline, but it's way too early at Mania. So Seth kind of feels like the only option unless Steve Austin becomes an option.
No, just no. Just no. That CM Punk
I wouldn't be against it, but I don't see it happening.
I don't think Punk can do that type of match.
Yeah, he can.
The type of match you need to do with Austin is a match where you bump for 10 minutes and take all the greatest hits. That's not a CM Punk match. if CM Punk wrestled Steve Austin in 2023, it would look like the SummerSlam match with Michaels and Hogan, and that would be worse than not having the match at all.
No, it wouldn't. Punk would bump his ass off if he had to.
Okay, but that's not the main event.
No,
It would have to be.
Yeah, definitely. Like I'm not talking in ring
Did you just
performance.
concede your point and then just make another one?
Even if you go that route,
You're
it's not the
he
main
wouldn't
event.
bump for him. Yes, he would. Okay, well, he would. But also, it wouldn't be a main event.
I think that's more important to him than anything. It was important to him 10
probably-
years ago. It's still going to be important to him now.
It's probably the number one thing on his list. I get that. And
Wait, Mania's
problem
2
is-
nights now? I can get a main event? Fuck yeah, I'm coming home.
Yeah, but you're working Triple H. That is a main event.
You know what? I'd love to hear that, because then you could hear, you're working Steve Austin. That's the main event.
there is 2 main events now, so
Well, what's unfortunate
makes it a
is,
little
you know,
bit easier to give that.
Usually the women
It's
get
pretty
one
legit.
night, but
It's pretty legit that it is 2 main events too. Like they usually do it pretty, like, I don't feel like it's really that much more promoted to be the night 2 person. It is like usually the one that is expected, but I think Sorry?
Did the women? Randy made a point about the women usually get a main event. Did they get one last year?
no,
Last
they
year
didn't.
was the tag title match
Mhm.
and Roman Cody.
Yeah, I don't even think it matters about how good the match is, and I don't think a Punk Austin match is going to be all that good, frankly, in terms of the way it plays out on screen. Some promos leading up to it, as long as they don't do it the Kevin Owens way, would be wonderful. But the marketing behind it,
I don't
like it would be WrestleMania 40s, WrestleMania 18. Although I suppose that wasn't the main event of that night either.
know.
So I think at
I
this
can't
point, what's
imagine
gonna
their
happen-
promos being that good.
Who
What
knows?
is CM Punk going to dig into about Austin?
He's an alcoholic.
Are we going to really
Yeah,
going
but-
to go the straight edge versus alcoholic route? Seriously?
The problem is with that, this is just me. Austin has lost a step in the promo game and obviously in the ring. He's been out of the ring for so long, but even in the
Same with
promo
The
game,
Rock.
he's
I thought
lost
your
a step.
point was that he has lost a step physically. Like, yes, I'm fairly sure we all know that, but yeah.
No.
But yeah, he's not. He's definitely
with
not.
his limitations in the ring, he was far more versatile as far as like the actual things he did with Kevin than I expected. I'll give him all that credit. He was much more of a wrestler than I expected him to be. I expected it to be 10 minutes of punches and stomping mud holes and then a stunner. But I mean, he's taking suplexes on the floor. I did not expect that. But his promo,
No, I mean he's lost an edge. I think he lost his edge. Like,
yeah,
he can't really
Yeah, he
put
went to AEW.
can't really put grit in there anymore.
he's not in game shape.
He's like
I think that
musicians. He's like when musicians put out their like first album after 10 years, and you're like, you don't have nothing to be angsty about. You've been retired and swimming in solid fucking gold pools and whatever. Like there's nothing to be angry about anymore. Like,
he's a Rolling Stones.
I feel like
concert in
Austin's
the
like that
2000s.
now.
He's a Rolling Stones concert
Yeah,
in the 2000s. You're going for the hits. You're not going for the energy.
I'm not saying I want
Yeah.
Austin versus Punk. Frankly, I think I'd rather see Cena versus Punk again before Austin versus Punk. But
Mick Jagger probably needs Blue Chew anyways.
That never happened.
Cena versus Punk?
They said Cena Austin.
No, Cena. Well, I mean, I'm sure
Okay.
people would pay for that too. But
That's what I was saying. Cena Austin never happened.
I would rather see him go up against someone on the main roster primarily, regardless of who it is.
The idea of CM Punk and John Cena in WrestleMania match makes the 20-year-old me so pissed off.
What, just
because
stare at the
that's
balding spot on Cena's head the entire match too?
Yeah.
Is that the only pay-per-view they haven't wrestled at?
Possible.
Yes,
Maybe.
probably. There might be a few others. The random
Finish
ones.
the story.
Can we
Wrong
bury
story.
that phrase, please? Can we bury that phrase? We're gonna hear it enough in the new year. I don't need to hear it now.
So yeah, CM Punk's back in WWE. We'll see.
Over under on Gone Before SummerSlam? Anybody?
Oh God.
Before SummerSlam, yeah, I think he's gone before SummerSlam.
Yeah,
I don't like. I wouldn't include that if it was just mischief, but if it's possible mischief, possible injury, yeah, I'll take that. I would take that bet for sure.
Now, Mischief retired already.
If it's like either or injury or fired or suspended or whatever,
I mean, I'd say still employed. It would be.
I'd say employed but injured. That feels likely.
I think there's no reason to bet.
The over/under injury is Royal Rumble.
So I'll take the over that he's still employed. It's just a question of, is he on thin ice or is he actually succeeding and everybody's happy? By then, who knows? He could be on thin ice and he doesn't make the Survivor Series. SummerSlam could be it. You never know.
Or maybe they give him his own show and it only runs for like 8 weeks.
Johnny's dying for that Fightful article that comes out. CM Punk involved in backstage altercation in WWE. He just wants it to be done and over with and get him out of there.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna read every CM Punk article that comes out for the next year. Like, I was like, I saw CM Punk on a street corner. It looked like his knuckles were kind of bruised. Did he punch someone? Like, I'm gonna read that.
I would love nothing more than to be a year and a half from now and being like, yeah, this run has actually been really good. I'm enjoying this so much more than I thought I would. And in reality, I'm much more likely to sit here and say that in a year, I'm going to be sitting here saying, I told you this was going to happen.
Well, I expect it to happen, so I'll be thankful if it doesn't, obviously. And I, too, would like to celebrate it being good,
I think we all kind of expect it to end badly. We're hoping it doesn't, but we all know that there's a really good chance this is ending badly.
I think we're also going to see a much different CM Punk in the ring because I think the motivations for this run are wrong. Like, I think he's being motivated by money and spite, and those are not the motivations that are going to make his matches as good as they were. Like, the AEW stuff, it was questionable, but he was motivated by passion, and you could see that passion in the matches. Even like a random TV match with Ricky Starks or Dax, you could still see the passion. I don't think we're going to see that passion this time around.
I feel like Kieran disagrees with you.
I disagree. So, excuse me. I don't disagree with the fact that he's probably back for the wrong reasons. I feel like you also have to add in there that he's back for glory, just for the sake of itself, not for being like he doesn't want to be like, oh, I got to finish my career off and be known as one of the best wrestlers. He's like, I want everyone to love me again. Like, I feel like it has nothing to do with wrestling. And so, yeah, that might be true that he might be there. But I also feel like there was almost zero passion in all of his AEW matches. So I think
that's just your I think that's your Hayden Christensen glasses coming out.
It might be. He's a terrible actor, though. I don't know. It just seemed like all of his matches where he was like, it wasn't even let's do the Bret Hart finish. He was like, let's do the entire Bret Owen match or whatever. Like, several times he was like, why don't we just watch a match and we'll just do it in the ring? Like,
hey Dax, you want to do SummerSlam next week?
Yeah, it's just like, that, like, I don't understand that. I don't understand being able to be like, hey, why don't we just do a classic over again instead of thinking about anything ourselves? And of course, Dax loved it. And Bret Hart was like, oh man, he's the greatest fucking wrestler ever.
Well, of course he thinks that. I love Bret, but Bret loves Bret.
I thought that was hilarious for Bret to come out and be like, I think the best guy in the last 20 years is CM Punk because he only does stuff that I do and he does it exactly the way I did it. And me and my brother Owen are the best wrestlers ever. So
I feel like there are
CM Punk really revolutionary.
I feel like there were a bunch of trolls on Twitter that are getting so unsung right now because I guarantee there were probably hundreds of posts after the Miz Gunther match that like, oh, Miz used the SummerSlam spot. CM Punk confirmed. He used the turnbuckle suplex spot to go roll over into the pin that Brett used to beat.
Yeah.
They used against Piper at WrestleMania. So he used the WrestleMania 8 spot. Punk confirmed.
Well,
I'm mad.
I mean, like, I posted something on DMD right away after he came back because I was like, all right, well, I was wrong, so I better post something right now saying, yes, I was wrong before someone shoves it down my throat. So I was totally wrong. I thought WWE was going to be like, this guy's a fucking mess. Why would we want him? So
I thought he was destined for a.
It's going to be interesting. Sorry?
I thought he was destined for a January TNA debut. Thought for sure that's where they were going to go with it.
I don't think he'd ever tuck his ego away and be like, I'm going to be on this.
I think that'd be perfect.
Super minor TV show.
I think that'd be the perfect place for him, for where he could have everything there. He'd be the unquestioned top guy because nobody in TNA would come anywhere close to his name value. He would be in the upper tier as far as talent goes.
He'd probably have total control of his creative.
He would have a free hand in creative. Nobody's telling him, no, you can't do that. He'd have matches he could have. Because let's be honest. I mean, I'm sure Jared would get himself saucy at the idea of CM Punk versus Josh Alexander or CM Punk versus Mike Bailey. I mean, those matches get me excited. The idea of those matches make me excited. So I would have rathered him go to TNA than back to WWE because at least there it's fresh.
Did you say that
versus PCO
would get Jared saucy?
Yes. Yes.
Is that a
yes.
term that people say?
Well, I said it. So
getting excited is saucy?
Well then.
Jared, were you gonna squirt out your secret sauce to this match that's coming up? Like, what?
Let's save that for the Geekside After Hours podcast, okay?
I can't help it. TNA makes me
hard.
hard.
This is the After Hours podcast. I wouldn't have agreed to be on a podcast that wasn't After Hours.
Touche.
Jer, you got an inkling where the whole TV deal thing's going with Raw?
Honestly, I could see it going to Amazon because it's really weird them going off USA after this long. Because I mean, the ratings for Raw are not good overall. They've been dropping significantly in the last 3 years, and that's probably made it a hard sell for TV networks, basically. So if they can sell it to Amazon as this niche product, then, and I mean, everyone and their brother has a Prime account anyways. So if they can sell it to Amazon, it can be this new kind of streaming service for WWE in a way, but obviously they do the Peacock and WWE network separately. But if they can do live programming on a streaming network other than WWE, and then it's not like, oh, what are the ratings for Raw on Amazon? Well, it's going to be inconsequential essentially because it's not the same thing as cable ratings.
It also,
and more people might end up having access to it, which could be a selling point for WWE.
It also works much better for them in the advertising department because Amazon's not taking a piece of the ad revenue there anymore. Yeah, they're putting their own ads in probably off the top and maybe at the quarter hours or the hour rates.
True.
But
that does change the ad game, huh?
Yeah, absolutely.
Huh. Good point.
There's so many places that have been rumored, but obviously the WBD one makes things interesting with AEW. I mean, Fightful brought WBD up again today, but Amazon's the one where you would think that they have the money to do basically just whatever they want. Do they have a football deal?
Yes, they have Thursday Night Football.
Mhm. Yeah, they got Thursdays.
They just signed a big NASCAR deal for 5 races a year throughout the next 6 years. I think they're in the
looking
NHL
at
this year.
NBA.
Yeah, I think
That's
they got hockey this year.
Yeah, they have some.
So like they're definitely in the game, but like to get an entire show like Raw, like you would think that Amazon has the infrastructure and ability to just do unique things with that too. Like that's a different type of beast. If I had to like lobby for someone to get it, I would want it to go to Amazon.
It's a perfect match for them, really. I mean, it helps everybody. You know, like I said, the ad game would be completely different and much more in their favor because then the ads, you know, the network isn't taking their cut of the ad break or even controlling the ad break. You know, there's so much more potential there to do it better from a financial standpoint for them. Plus whatever, you know, like you said, this is Amazon. No matter, they could offer them 3 times as much as USA did on their last deal. Yeah, they could offer them the price of the company for Monday Night Raw, and it would be one day's earnings from Amazon.
Yeah, I definitely think like Amazon paid like a ridiculous price for like some of the series that like the Lord of the Rings series they did and Wheel of Time or whatever.
They bought an entire
that show
movie
sucked,
studio,
but they paid a lot of money for it. Sorry?
They bought an entire movie studio just to get Bond.
Yeah. So like they're playing. They can do whatever they want. They're like, you know, they're paying with monopoly money right now. They get to print their own money, and they're like, hey, I hear you guys like this stuff. Like, it doesn't. Yeah. So if they want that, the only question is whether or not they want to be in with WWE. Like, it's going to be down to the other stuff. Like, hey, WWE, would you like to? Are you going to promote all of our Amazon stuff? And if WWE is like, I mean, maybe some, then they might be like, fuck you. Like they can really play around like children at Amazon. So it won't be down to money. It'll be down to whether or not Amazon is like, hey, like, would you guys like to do this and that and whatever? And I don't know if WWE wants to go away from I don't know if they want to do that, but I can see like it makes sense to me. I don't know. As a person who has like, I'm not a TV executive or whatever, but it makes sense to me to go to Amazon. So
I don't think there's anywhere else to go. You know, if you're walking away from NBC Universal, which is what they're doing by leaving USA, they're giving them SmackDown, and that's fine. But you're not going to get one of the big 4 networks. Fox has already said, fuck no, you're not worth it. You're not going to end up on ABC. You're not going to end up on NBC because obviously NBC said no. You're not going to end up on CBS. Like, you're not going to end up on cable. So, or you're not even just on broadcast. You're stuck with cable, and where are you going to go?
FX is another
it's
one.
It's not even just
Disney, essentially.
It's not even just the ratings, right? Like, it's not even just the ratings that pissed off Fox. Like, they pissed off Fox many, many times with different things, right? Like wrestlers that they wanted and directions that they wanted them to go, and
the ad revenue wasn't where they wanted it to be.
Am I correct? Yeah.
Well, and then moving SmackDown to CW, so that's going to be interesting as well.
NXT.
That's right, NXT. But that's right, because SmackDown's going. Yeah. But it's just that's so strange that we're getting all these shows moving around like this, and the odd man out is Raw of all shows, really. The flagship that's been around since I was a kid. I mean, that it just doesn't make sense to me. That
is weird for that to be the unwanted one.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I mean, it sort of makes the most sense unless you actively move it off of Monday. Like, if you're still shopping as a Monday night show, you're in a death knell from, September through December. Because when you're up against Monday Night Football every week, your ratings are going to drop for a quarter of the year. That's not good for your numbers. That's an entire quarter where your numbers are going to be down drastically.
Well, and part of that time they're facing off against playoff baseball as well. So it's one of those.
Add that to
Yeah.
the already, to Monday Night Football, and you're double fucked but I mean, that's only like a 3-week period in, October, November. So it's not as bad, because then you have to have a game fall on Monday. It has to be an important game. It has to be a night game. There's more, you can avoid the MLB playoffs better than you can Monday Night Football, I guess is what I'm saying.
No, you're not wrong.
This is why I always I wonder about the people who are upset about the ratings and stuff like that, because of all the wrestling fans I know, present company included, how much of us watch it on time all the time, in its proper time slot? Most of the guys, if I know 20 wrestling fans, I know 3 of them that go every Monday night and watch every Friday night and watch every Wednesday night. Most of them are like me. They watch a shit ton on Saturday when they finally got time. They watch it in the middle of the night. I never watch any of my wrestling on time. So yeah, I'm watching it online. Sometimes I'm watching YouTube clips of if I just wanted to hear what happened when fucking Gunther and Miz went at each other, I'll watch the YouTube clip instead of go to my PVR. So just tying it in what we were saying earlier, the ratings, of course they matter, but I don't know. I think you got to gauge your product off of a lot of different things now.
The rating number that matters is the live plus 7. The live viewing plus the 7-day DVR numbers. Those are the numbers that matter, because that gives you a more accurate of your audience, because like Kieran said, there's guys who watch it on PVR. There's people who don't watch it until the weekend. So their numbers aren't counted on Monday night, but in the live plus 7 they are. Those numbers matter, and those are the numbers that people don't care about. Everybody just cares about the fast overnights, which are ridiculously untrustworthy.
Well, and you got to go with live gates are a big thing too, and I mean that hasn't been the way to make money in wrestling in a long time. But how much merch are you selling? How's your social media doing? How's your company doing is really all that matters now. Is your company making money? That's I don't know. That's what I find out is funny these days is everyone's on TV ratings, and it's just not the same. It's like when you measure a quarterback by quarterback rating, and it used to be the gospel to be well, his QBR is lower than this guy, but now they have all sorts of crazy stats that make way more sense than quarterback rating, right? And yet there's still people who they'll still post quarterback rating on Fox or whatever, and you'd be like, what's the one that they use now called? Johnny, quarterback rating, it's called something +2 or something, or I forget what it's called. There's a new stat.
I don't know the advanced statistics in football as well as I do baseball.
There's a really crazy advanced statistic that measures quarterback way better now than
you talk about their QBR, which kind of takes away the QBR, which takes into it takes into account situational awareness and things like that, how they perform on specific situations, and gives them an overall rating. If you have and it goes from 1 to 100, and it's
the only quarterback numbers I care about were how many yards did you throw, how many picks did you throw, how many touchdowns did you throw, did you win the game? I don't care how many incompletions you got if you threw 300 yards and 4 touchdowns and won the game. I don't care if you were 13 of 40. I don't give a shit if you threw for 300 yards, you threw 3 touchdowns, didn't throw an interception, and won the game. That's what I care. I don't care if your QB rating was 6. I don't even know if you can score a QB rating that low.
Oh, I'm sure you can. You just don't throw for those types of stats and get that type of a rating.
All right. Well, let's shift gears here. I've had a unhealthy obsession looking back at old Nintendo 64 videos lately. I don't know. There's something about the Nintendo 64 that I loved. It was awkward, and yet there's so many titles for that if you didn't have a Nintendo 64, you weren't going to play a lot of those titles. So I don't know who wants to go first, but maybe just talk a little bit about what you thought of the Nintendo 64 and maybe what a couple of your favorite games were.
Well, other than the god awful
I hated the
controller,
Nintendo
which it really
64.
was.
Yeah, fuck that controller.
That controller sucked. Just, I mean, give me the Duke from the Xbox, and I'll
That
call it a day.
chunky bitch.
It's better than an N64 controller.
Not by much.
It's still better, regardless.
My
But-
hands still hurt.
Right? But no, like I used to play it a lot in my 20s. Obviously played a lot of Mario Kart 64. The Zelda Ocarina of Time was probably one of my favorite games. I enjoyed messing around with Conker's Bad Fur Day, which was such a fun game.
So inappropriate for your preteen me to be playing.
But it was still a great game.
Best boss
but-
battle ever.
Nothing like throwing the toilet paper into a big pile of shit. I think I would
That
say
sings at you.
yeah, very true.
35-year-old me looks at that game and says, how was I able to rent that at 12?
That's a very good point. That's what happens when parents don't pay attention to the ratings.
I don't think it was. I think it was
It was a mature rating for back
yeah,
then.
but I mean, so was like GoldenEye. Like, that was not a mature rated game.
GoldenEye, the game that made or broke friendships.
Yeah. Oh fuck. I've played more GoldenEye this year than I have since I had a Nintendo 64. There's been a few nights where we've had some people over, and it's just we geek out on GoldenEye. My 15-year-old can't stand the graphics, but he likes the competition of trying to win. Obviously, I'm like, dude, these were the graphics back in the day. It was so realistic. You can
But his
open
head looks like a block.
No, man.
I would really screw with him and
They
get like,
had-
some Game Shark codes out there and have like big head mode on and just see how he reacts to that.
They had the N64 out, and like when PlayStation came out, like I had never understood anyone thinking 64 was better than PlayStation. Like, never could understand it at all. I was like, the graphics are way better on the PlayStation. And people were trying to tell me that these fucking Roblox looking characters were all great. And I was just like, no, like, they have non-square graphics on this other system. Like, I was not a Nintendo 64 person at all. I didn't own one until like 5 years ago. So, but I did like lots of the game. Of course, I liked GoldenEye. Of course, I liked playing Mario Kart. Like, if I look at the games on here, yeah, Smash Bros is amazing. Shadows of the Empire was awesome. But like, I would argue with my friends just like a Hayden Christensen argument over and over again for years about how dumb 64 was and how great PlayStation was. So I don't even belong in this.
It's all about the kind of
I don't
game you
belong in
play.
this topic at all.
It's all about the kind of game you
Sorry?
played and were you a Nintendo household? That sort of is where the battle lines get drawn there. If you grew up in a Nintendo,
You know what? I was a Sega person too. So
exactly. I was literally sitting there when you were doing that, and I'm thinking to myself, I bet you were a Sega kid growing up, weren't you? And
I had the regular Nintendo, but
well, everyone did. There was.
I'm pretty sure I was a Sega person because I found out that the Mortal Kombat had blood in Sega. So I was like, yeah, let's go with that.
Fair. But like, it just, the N64, I think for me had so much more going for it. It was, for me as a 10-year-old, it had far superior wrestling games. And it had GoldenEye. That's all it needed for it to be a better console. It had Smash, it had the Mario games, Mario Party. Like, there was nothing like that on the PlayStation.
I do miss Mario Party. That was fun. I think I took that game for granted.
There was so much more to it than Sony. Like, once you get to like PS2, sure, then Sony starts to sort of make its case and be like, yeah, we're good, we're better. Sony also had the disadvantage going of a lot of its best games were multi-disc games. That was annoying as fuck to me as a kid. You know,
Wasn't
I don't want to
Siphon
stop.
Filter like 4 discs or some shit?
Yeah, I don't want to stop playing in the middle of a game to get up and go change the disc. I want to keep going. You know, like it was an annoying part for me, but I was an N64 kid. You know, like I said, GoldenEye was my game.
I can remember. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I just remember, you know, for me, I started off as the Atari 2600 kid, went to Nintendo, got myself a Genesis and a Super Nintendo, and then I moved up to PlayStation and an N64. I tried to keep it pretty even. I liked all the systems for various different reasons, but when it comes to N64, you know, you always build off of, say, Mario. That's where you always start, especially if you start off with Nintendo. You had your regular NES, Super NES, didn't matter. Mario was king. And when you got to Mario 64 and it branched out into, you know, Smash and Mario Kart, then you get the Zelda games. I mean, you had to really dig deep on the original PlayStation to find something that was even comparable to those types of titles. And like Johnny said, you know, having 3-4 discs. I mean, look at all the Final Fantasy games. Those all had 3 or 4 discs. Legend of Dragoon, I think, had 4 discs, which was still an amazing game, and I would love a remake someday, but I doubt that's ever going to happen.
I never played that game, but I had a demo disc with that game on it, and I'd play the demo over and over and over again.
Such a good game. But yeah, and it's Nintendo. If it wasn't for Nintendo, let's be honest, we wouldn't be where we are today with games in general, because it was Nintendo that saved everything after the game crash back in the 80s. So
was there another point?
I don't know. I like.
Honestly,
no, not for Randy. I thought someone was trying to go before, then I couldn't remember.
So, okay, as far as WCW games go, N64 absolutely smashed the shit out of PlayStation. WCW versus the World sucked. WCW Nitro sucked. WCW Thunder sucked. WCW NWO Revenge was amazing.
I played the hell out of that game.
You just walked me into that very confusing loop where I'm like, what do you mean WCW versus the World sucked? And I'm like, no, wait, that was the PlayStation game. World Tour was the N64 game.
Yes.
Similar names, but
I know, yeah.
Yeah, versus
and
the World.
Just ass. There was more to do. I would play, like, I didn't have an N64, but my cousin did, and we would rent WCW NWO Revenge and just play it for like an entire weekend, and it never got boring or stale, or just there was, you know, we'd do the battle royal, there was so much more to do as opposed to the WCW games. And the fucking circular camera going around the ring for Nitro and Thunder,
oh god,
fuck off, garbage.
Yeah, that was awful. That was a truly awful game. The only thing good about those WCW games were the videos when you got to pick the players. They were hilarious.
That was it. Nash didn't even want you to pick him.
Yeah, he was like, yeah, don't just fucking pick Hogan, pick fucking Flair. Who gives a shit? Like, yeah. Yeah, that was great. Yeah, those were amazing. You could go back and watch those on YouTube, and it's amazing. But
I need to do that. I've definitely never seen them.
Oh yeah, they're hilarious.
You definitely did. You're just not remembering them.
Which game?
Nitro had them.
Nitro and Thunder.
Thunder had some of the worst ones.
There was a fun for PS1, right?
Yes.
Yeah. See, Mayhem, I had that one. I had
Mayhem. You had Nitro too.
Did I? I don't remember that. I think I had Thunder, but I don't remember that either.
My selling point for Thunder was
my cousin had Thunder, but I'm pretty sure you had Nitro. But like the WCW games, I personally liked the EA WCW games. They were garbage, but they were the fun kind of garbage.
They were all right.
They were bad, but they were fun bad. I liked Mayhem and Backstage Assault because they were so bad they were good. And I was a WCW kid at that point in my life. I was 10 years old. The Attitude Era, I've said this before, the Attitude Era was not for me.
Yeah, I'm always on that too. Like when people tell me like the Attitude Era was the greatest, I'm like, so you like, like cars getting filled with cement and stuff? Like,
it's a question.
Or
how
wait,
old were you
go back and watch the wrestling. It was pretty awful if it wasn't Stone Cold or The Rock. Like, it was lots of really bad stuff in the Attitude Era. It was just like it's exactly what fucking Russo said. He's like, I just planned out car crash TV. Like, it was just, I just wrote random crazy segments for 7 minutes at a time, and like then we had wrestling matches in between that he was not interested in actually doing. Like,
I think it might have been, I think Bix might have said it on Twitter last week, something like the Attitude Era is the most culturally relevant era to its time period, and absolute garbage. Like if you go back and watch the Attitude Era now, it's like, oh, this is garbage. This stuff sucks. Like there might be a few good segments sprinkled throughout, but the rest of it was hot ass. But at the time, culturally,
the wrestling matches were awful. That's why.
Even the
ECW TV holds up better.
Yeah.
In between watching, like you watched, fucking Stone Cold throw the belt in the river, and you're like, that's fucking awesome. He's pissed off or whatever. And then they showed you fucking Val Venus versus some fucking like you watch the most shittiest, terrible wrestling match after that, and then you're like, hey, when are they going to start beating each other up in the backstage again? Like you didn't want to watch the wrestling, like you wanted to watch the interviews and fucking people crotch chopping each other and whatever. And then when the wrestling goes, you're like, well, this is just fucking bad. Like
I'm not here to watch a Val Venus
bad
match. But I will.
You don't want to see an 8-minute X-Pac match?
Has to chop off his pee-pee.
Yeah, I did want to watch. I was like, oh man, did they really chop his dick off? Like, and then they had the match to blow off the thing, and I was like, I don't want to watch this.
I mean, it couldn't be any worse than Mae Young giving birth to a hand, but
I mean, Val Venus got his penis cut off, so.
You don't want to go watch more LOD 2000?
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Or we could just go, all we can say is the Katie Vick segment and just leave it at that.
That's not attitude. Don't you lump that hot garbage with the attitude. That's ruthless aggression garbage. That's different.
But there was good matches in that. Like
very true.
The storylines were terrible, but you can go back and watch the WrestleMania from that and enjoy a lot of the matches. Whereas if you're watching WrestleMania 15, you just want to watch the last match.
Dear God.
You don't want to watch the rest of it. Like,
I don't know. I get a certain thrill out of watching Butterbean knock out Bart Gunn.
Let me tell you, I watched a couple of WrestleMania matches in the last week, and it was both Bret Hart versus Yoko matches, which I definitely hadn't watched in at least 10 plus years.
Your first mistake was watching anything from WrestleMania 9.
And
that WrestleMania should be like stricken. Like if I could Thanos snap any one, oh no, wait, I can't even say that.
Steiners and Head Shrinkers is good.
I think I'd Thanos snap December to dismember over WrestleMania 9.
I'm watching Brett attempt to put the sharpshooter on Yoko, and Mr. Fuji hits him with the powder. And for whatever reason, in my head, I thought there was a bonsai after that or a big splash. He just rolls him up and gets a 3 count. Like, I know you can't see, but you can't kick out? Like, come on.
To be fair, if Yoko rolled me up, I'm not kicking out either.
It just looked horrible. And then I watched the second one, and again, I didn't remember the finish. I thought something happened after Yoko fell off the rope, but no, Yoko just falls backwards and Brett pins him. And I'm just like, what?
I like the 10 match, but
the 10 match
WrestleMania 10 is actually like my favorite WrestleMania. So
top to bottom?
Yep. I'm watching WrestleMania 10. I love it. It's a bunch of nostalgia. Like, it's not the best show to watch. I'm not going to say that, but it's my favorite one to rewatch.
That's fair. I mean, I'd still take 17 over it, but that's
17's amazing. 17 is amazing.
But 17
What
is
about
like
WrestleMania
I
5.
don't know.
17 is not just one of the best WrestleManias. It's the WrestleMania that brought me back. That was the WrestleMania that brought me back to the WWF. Like I'd sort of been around the edges, but by that point I was, 13, 14, the end of the Attitude Era. Okay, I'm ready for, by that point I'm ready for boobs. Like 10-year-old me, I don't care about titties. I want to go play video games. 13-year-old me, I'd like to see some titties, please. So
That makes sense.
but no,
6-year-old me wanted to
WrestleMania-
see King Haku versus Hercules.
WrestleMania 17 was the first WWF pay-per-view I'd actually watched since 97.
It's a long time.
That's
You
was
missed some
that
good
2001?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd watch it. Like I'd get like video. I'd get VHS. If I go to a Blockbuster and see a WWF VHS on sale for $5, I'm getting it. If I go to Walmart and see a VHS for $5, I'm buying it. So I still saw a lot of the pay-per-views in between. Like I had, WrestleMania 14 and the two In Your Houses that followed was Judgment Day and
Over the Edge.
And Over the Edge, yeah. So I had like those 3 VHSs that I bought at Walmart because they were on sale for $5 a piece. So I'm like, can I get them? Can I get please? And they're like, fine, they're $5. I don't care. Throw them in the cart. So I'd get those. I'd watch the pay-per-views, but I didn't watch Raw. I wasn't allowed to watch Raw for most of the Attitude Era because my parents were like, they watched it. And they're like, no, you are not watching this. I was a WCW kid, and I enjoyed WCW because by that point they were in the opposite trend, right? They were more for the,
Well, plus you didn't have to stay up to watch Nitro because it would air the next day.
also true. Yeah.
The perks of being
That's true.
Canadian. We got to watch both shows without interruption.
Yeah, so Nintendo 64. No, I didn't get to play a lot of
Put
wrestling.
up a
games.
different graphic.
I didn't get to play. You won't want to talk about the next one. I didn't get to play a lot of Nintendo 64 when it was like the popular thing. I'd get to play it at Johnny's, and I think Cody was the other one.
Was it Cody or
And-
was it Cody having a 64 to Tristan?
I think both of them actually. Both of them did.
Yeah,
But-
my-
I owned a 64 later on, a few years.
I love how Sean tries to fill in. I love how Sean tries to fill in the gaps in his memory, and Johnny's always there. Like Sean's like, I had 2 friends who had. He's like 3 friends. It's John, Mike, and Bill, and you're like, okay, like I'm.
Well,
Anyway,
that tends
I think
to
we
happen when
like to
we've
play
had this many
Smash Bros.
friends.
No, it wasn't Smash Bros. It was GoldenEye.
It's very unlike for Sean to leave Phil out anyways.
We didn't have a Phil.
No, I don't think so. Man, I'm surprised more games didn't try to capitalize off the Super Smash Brothers system, the 4-player versus each other. On different,
Everyone has tried and everyone has failed.
like I would have bought a Star Wars game like that. That's just Star Wars characters. I would have bought it.
You also made a big point of renting Masters of Tears Kasi, so your tastes are a little questionable as far as that
I
goes.
regret it.
Hey, who doesn't want to play as a sand person named Whore?
I didn't just rent that game. I owned it. And I
Oh
unlocked-
God!
I unlocked every single character in that game.
I currently own it. I bought that game as an adult.
Man,
I wouldn't buy that game at a yard sale for 50 cents.
hey, Dark Forces is coming back out in like 2 months' time, so
I got it on Steam. I don't need to get it again.
I'm looking forward to it. Looks like they put some effort into the remaster. Any final thoughts? Anything? Oh, sorry. You guys are all into fantasy sports. So I wanted to bring this up. It's been a topic of discussion in our league, our hockey league that we do.
We talk about how bad Jer is at fantasy sports this year.
Actually, my question to all of you is when you're going to talk to someone about making a trade, How do you go about it? Like, what's your process like without revealing maybe any secrets you have? Or
That depends. Are we talking about like a player on a trade block or a throw shit against the wall trade?
either, really, either.
Because I mean, trade block is pretty simple. You just sort of throw an offer at the guy and be like, "Here's where I'm at. Where are you at?" and go from there. Then there's the throw shit at the wall, which occasionally you'll just drop a random trade in an inbox and be like, "I'm thinking something spicy. How you thinking?" And sometimes good trades come out of that, and sometimes you look at a guy and go, "Are you fucking stupid? Why would I ever do that?"
I think mutual needs are important.
Yeah, for sure.
If somebody needs a specific player or position, then I'm going to look at my roster and think, okay, what do I need if I'm losing that? If I'm hurting at this other position, what do they have that I might need that would, okay, I'm losing this top player at this position, but for Dynasty, for example, if I'm rebuilding, I'm going to need something for the future.
If
Let's
I'm
talk
rebuilding.
Picks, like I will sell Brian Robinson for a first-round pick.
If I'm rebuilding, says the guy with one win.
It's not an if.
If you like, I can reveal the true strategies for both these guys. But
I'm pretty sure I
think-
literally
I
just
think-
did my true strategies.
oh no, Johnny's true strategy is he finds a player who's worth a lot. He offers him to everyone in the league. He waits and sees what nibbles he gets on the thing, and then he lies to everybody about what price is being discussed. You'll say like,
I can
I'll give you a first, and then Johnny goes, someone else just offered me a first and a second, and I'll be like, okay, all right, and then I'll be like, fine, you know what? I will give you a first, a second, and this player, and I'll be like, oh, price just went up. Someone else just told me 2 firsts and whatever, and I'll be like, bullshit, Johnny. That's not what. No way. And then I walk away from it.
It did happen.
And it doesn't happen. I know because when I walk away from trades after he tells me that somebody offered him 2.5 firsts, the trade doesn't happen. But if I offer him the same thing, he accepts it right away and it happens. And that's why I don't trade with this guy. Now this fuck down here, he doesn't even look at his inbox ever. You can send him anything. You can send him any trade, anything that would make any goddamn sense. He doesn't look at it for 3 days. He comes back to you and he'll be like, oh, I wasn't thinking that. I was thinking way, way more than the player could ever be worth. And then you go like, I don't know, I'll think about it. He doesn't even decline your trade. He just leaves it there. So if his player could be like injured or something, he can immediately accept it. And that's why I don't trade with that fucking guy.
So you know what I do? I send the exact same trade to everyone in the league, and then I wait about 2 days, and if nobody bites, I just drop the guy on waivers.
Exactly.
Damn.
Yeah, I don't like losing people for free. If I can trade them for something useful, then I definitely do that. To Kieran's point on Johnny there, I literally basically did the same thing today. I said I was open to trading Cale Makar in hockey. Not that I'm trying to trade Cale Makar in hockey. And so like people are messaging me and it's like, no, I'm good. And someone offered like a second round pick and someone that might be a keeper on their team. And I'm just like, no, this dude over here just traded McDavid, who's not as good as Makar in fantasy, and got like 5 times what you're offering. And offers
I'm just scratching my head trying to figure out which trade Kieran's talking about.
Oh, here we go.
For the record,
Whatever.
Connor's mom is available for a first.
I'm just trying to figure out which one he was talking about because I thought he was talking about one trade because it very similarly went down that, but then we did that trade. And the only other time I've done that, I don't think he was involved. So I'm scratching my head trying to figure out. Which one he's
I
talking
know
about.
what you do, Johnny.
I thought you were
know
talking
what
about
you
Clay.
do.
I honestly I thought you were talking about Clay on draft night because that was the last time we did that. I don't remember doing
There's
that any other
whole
time.
chat that you're not in. It's just everybody but Johnny chat, and we go like, "What fucking did you get from Johnny this time? Is anyone offering? Did anyone actually offer this?"
Even I'm in that chat.
Jared never checks that chat though, like the rest of his pile.
I have that muted. Same with my sleeper notifications.
Yep.
That's great.
Don't
Sleeper
worry, we're
sends you a
muting your
notification
championship
to
run
stupid.
as well.
You just
Man, I
wait.
thought I'd done
2026
some
is
shady
my
shit.
year.
You know what I love about this podcast? Too? Like whenever we podcast, the four of us, obviously, sorry, Randy, you haven't been in our league, but you can be someday. Like we're all the champions from the league, like for the last like forever years, and like they always talk about like doing a podcast with different people and stuff like that, and they're like, well, we already have a podcast. It's with all the winners. I've said that to so many people. It always pisses them off.
Damn.
That's so true.
Like we could do a podcast. Like we already have a podcast. Only winners are on it.
And there's the
Sorry,
super
Zach.
secret chat
Oh,
you have to be
hey,
a
I'm
part
in
of.
with that.
Then there's the super secret one where you have to have so many championships to win. Jared and I are the only ones in that one. That's the 3-time club.
Johnny, you need to cheer up about wrestling.
Nobody's been more successful than me, Johnny.
So
Percentage-wise, I already broke this down.
You may have a better win percentage than me, but unlike Joe Flacco, I have a better playoff percentage than you. I've still been in like 50%
You're
of
also
the
starting
league
this
finals.
week.
You've won.
I
You've won three. You've won what? 3 championships, and I've won 2. And you've been playing for like 20 years, and I've been
Yeah, but
playing
I've
for like
also
5
been in-
years.
I've also been in like 6 league finals that I didn't win. If
I-
I'd have won
What
every
are
time
you,
I made it to
LeBron?
the finals,
Is that
yes,
the LeBron argument?
I'm okay with that. LeBron's still like the second best basketball player in history. I'm okay
Johnny
with that.
has better
argument.
I
hair.
know, and I'm the best. I'm Jordan, and
No,
you're
you've lost in
LeBron.
the final. You've lost in the final, so you can't be Jordan.
I have not lost in the finals.
LeBron's hair starts like here.
I'd just like to remind everybody that my winning percentage is actually 100. And since
Well,
I'm
no, because you
positive,
lost games.
well, you know what I mean. 1 season, 1 championship, and some positive. I will never
You are
fluke in
correct.
fantasy football championship.
I'll say
will
this
never
again.
play
I said
fantasy
it
football
back
again.
then. Whoever drafted Derrick Henry was winning the championship that year. It doesn't
Todd
matter
Gurley.
who it was.
Did you
Todd Gurley.
purposely Costanza it? Like you left? You like told your high joke and then you left?
No, there was reasons behind it, but
I know what actually happened, but I thought you'd enjoy the Costanza reference.
I actually just watched that episode too. Hi.
I mean, that one's great. Yep. See you later. Yep. Actually, it's 12 o'clock, so I'm gonna Costanza myself.
You should have just went hi and left.
I should have done that. Yeah, I should have done that. Oh well. Well, it was really fun podcasting with you guys again. Maybe I'll be back
Yeah,
someday.
well.
Or maybe my alter ego will come out someday.
I thought he was dead. There is Kieran.
His alter ego scares me.
We advertised it, so I do got to bring it up. And since Johnny and Jared haven't been on this channel to talk about this in forever, I've only spent a few minutes on it. There's going to be a Halloween TV series.
Yay!
Now, there's 2 courses of thought here. One, they do something true detective style that's stretched out over a course of time, and it's a new story with Michael Myers. And the other thought is it's going to be a season of The Witch, either continuation or complete retell. And actually, that one seems to be leading the way at the moment. It's sounding more likely that it's going to be Season of the Witch related than Michael Myers. I don't know about you guys. I just have never been able to. I'm not saying there's nothing good out there, but I've never been able to get into horror TV shows that are like serial killer based. You know, I like Flanagan stuff and what he does, but I just have a hard time. Like, okay, so you have 8 episodes of whatever. To me, it's hard to use Michael Myers like that across 8 episodes. Where a season of the Witch story, I mean, you can do all sorts of fucking messed up shit with that. Johnny and Jerry, your thoughts on a Halloween series, and then we'll get Randy to close it out. But your thoughts on the Halloween series and what way you would go and what way you think they might go.
I think for me, I like the idea of a Halloween series. But the problem is, at this point in the franchise's life cycle, I think anything that's not about Michael is going to get shit on by the populace at large. Like, there's a small community of people who really love Season of the Witch, but it's a very small, very niche portion of the fan base. You know, most people ignore it, despite the fact it's actually a pretty good movie. It's still like, oh, it's the worst Halloween movie in history because it doesn't have Michael in it. You know, like, that's, I guess, fine, whatever. But I don't know. Like, it would probably be, like, from a storytelling perspective, Season of the Witch would probably be better for a TV series because you can sort of stretch out the story over a longer period of time. It doesn't have to just be Halloween night, since that has been exclusively when Michael sort of does his thing. But I think a Michael TV series could be interesting, depending on how you play it, you know, and what type of series it is. Could be fun. I mean, I think, you know, if you were to sort of do something in between, you know, assuming you're going to stay in the currently established canon, I think if you were to do something in between 1 and the Halloween, you know, 2017 or whatever, 2017, 2018?
2018, but they've already announced they will not be continuing on from that story.
No, but that's really the only 2 things. I think it has to be Michael if you have the Halloween name, because I think, you know, like
that's my logic too. Like, you're going to pay all this money to do a Halloween TV series, which
you're not paying for the Halloween name. You're paying for the character of Michael Myers. You know, and Season of the Witch is a part of that franchise, but it's a very small part. Like, if you want to go down a route where you sort of intertwine the 2 in a way that sort of explains, you know, your own sort of version of the canon or whatever, that takes it out of the films, like obviously past 1, I think, because I think you sort of have to keep that one in play. But like, if you want to play in that playground, I think you can. Or you could even start fresh if you want. Because TV, you know, you can start fresh in a TV series, I think, easier than you can in a movie, because it's different media, right? It's a different form of entertainment. So I think if you were to tell sort of a Birth of Michael television series set in a modern day setting instead of, you know, being a period piece, which sounds weird saying 70s as a period piece, but, you know, that's where we are. But, you know, if you were to set it in the present and establish it and sort of tie the 2 in together in such a way that, you know, the Shamrock Company plays into Michael's birth as the serial killer, I think you could do that. And I think it could be fun and interesting and play with the 2 in such a way that you sort of get the melding of both worlds in a fun TV series. But I think it has to include Michael Myers in some form or fashion. Anything else is just money wasted, I think. You could do that series without the Halloween franchise, and it would be just as good, and you wouldn't have to deal with the very vocal Halloween fan base saying this doesn't have Michael in it sucks, which is what you'd be up against.
I think enough time has gone by that people would be more accepting of a Season of the Witch TV series. I mean, when the movie first came out, people were very upset and did not want because not that the Michael story has been done to death, but there is, like, you know, 11 or 12 movies with Michael that exist now. So they can go back to Season of the Witch and it doesn't feel like they're missing out on more Michael content. And like Johnny said, and it seems to be the consensus, but I think the Season of the Witch story is something you can stretch out over a series of episodes. You can only do so much with a serial killer storyline, and you can't do there's a reason there's not an 8-hour serial killer movie, because you can only do so much with it. Which, I mean, it's fine for what it is. That's not a knock against the serial killer genre, but it's a very small window that you can really tell a cohesive story in, as opposed to the Season of the Witch. You've got a lot more moving parts that you can play with, that I think would tell a better long-term story. I mean, it might not be universally accepted, and I think that's okay, but I think it's something different, and there has been almost zero, other than, an occasional, hey, I recognize that mask. There's been like no fan service to the fans, or the cult following, I should say, of that movie in the last 35 years. So, it would be a nice nod, and I would be absolutely fascinated to see what kind of story they would tell with that. And I mean, would people be upset that it's not Michael? Some might. Would it hurt the overall thing they're trying to do? I don't think so. I mean, look at what happened with the last Halloween movie. People were absolutely upset about the whole, Corey Cunningham thing, but people still went to go see it, and some people have even warmed up to it. So it's not, I don't think they could really do something that would kill off this idea. So I think branching away from Michael for a little bit might be a good thing. Kind of make people forget about him a little bit, so that way they can come back to it later on, and maybe some of the, taste might be out of their mouths after the last trilogy.
Randy, any thoughts?
So even though I'm more of a Friday the 13th person, obviously I do enjoy the Halloween movies. And as far as making a series out of it, I think if it's done right, you can incorporate Michael Myers into it. I'm not saying we need like a complete total procedural where we just see a trail of bodies along the way in every episode and then trying to track him down sort of thing. But I think if you can get a solid script and get the flow right for what you're trying to do, it can work. But I do feel like Season of the Witch would be a really good way to, stretch that out and give fill in the blanks for improve upon the story. But as a TV series, because we all know that Carpenter, once 2 was done, 3 was meant to start the whole idea of an anthology series. So to actually take that notion and bring it into a TV series, I think could work. I mean, we've seen that with, American Horror Story, for as many seasons as it's had of that anthology series. Obviously, we've seen things with like Tales from the Dark Side and the Twilight Zone as well, working as working in TV. So why not try your hand at giving us a Season of the Witch type TV series that just gives us all of that and improves upon the story, and gives us a little more character development, and obviously let's give some young up and comers a real shot here too. Why not? I feel like that you can get some of your best horror TV out of that is by getting some of these young generation a chance to really tell a really good story. But beyond that, I mean, we've seen the success of, Child's Play coming to the small screen. We know we're getting a Friday the 13th series. So this isn't kind of a natural next step for Halloween. So whether they decide to adhere to Season of the Witch or give us more Michael Myers, if they go more Michael Myers, I definitely would like a little more. Obviously, you're going to need more story. You're going to need more, I wouldn't say filler, but just give us something that at least is going to hold our attention other than the hope of seeing him on the screen. Beyond that, I'm going to be really curious to see exactly what comes out, what casting, what type of story they're going to do, exactly how many episodes in a season, just to kind of tell a complete story.
I guess the only thing that doesn't line up for me there is there was a bidding war for the TV rights. So you would think if you're getting into a bidding war and you're going to pay, the figure's not out there, but a lot of money to be able to get the Halloween TV rights, you would think that you're paying for the use of Michael Myers. There's a chance you're paying for the ability to make a Season of the Witch show. Absolutely. But the anthology route, my argument there would be, so you're just going to pay to use Halloween in the title? Because you could go do any anthology movie you want on your own without Halloween in the title, or even with Halloween with a spin in the title. I'd like the anthology route. I'm not saying they can't get there, but to me, despite the Season of the Witch rumors, I just have a hard time seeing Miramax go, yeah, we're going to pay all this money and not use Michael Myers. Because remember, it's not just a TV series. They announced an overall cinematic universe. So I do wonder if we will get killers outside of Michael Myers, and the common ground might be Illinois, Haddonfield, Russellville, the surrounding area, perhaps. I did like Johnny's idea of possibly combining the two, a Season of the Witch / Michael story that is attached. I just have a hard time believing they would pay all that money and then go and do something completely off the board.
I mean, you do make a good point there. I also feel like I said, especially with the TV though, you're trying to figure out how to take something that normally is an hour and a half and expand upon it to the point of getting 8 to 10 episodes out of it. And maybe in some cases only 6. I think that's where my struggle is with this. But you're right. You're not going to go into a bidding war for the name unless you plan on using the Man in the Mask. So I just feel like I'm just trying to figure out exactly how they're going to expand upon it and how they're going to stretch things out to really make you invest the time into a series when you can just be like, okay, I'm just going to stream an hour and a half long movie.
I think the Halloween franchise sort of already has that ability built into it, because as much as we like to say, oh, Halloween, it's all about Halloween night, but I mean, has there ever been a Halloween movie that is literally strictly 100% confined to just Halloween night?
I mean, not really. I mean, usually it takes a course over a few days. So, I mean, I can see how they could utilize that.
I think Halloween 6 would be the only one.
So, I mean, even then, there's only one example. I mean, let's put it this way. If you're struggling to come up with that answer, I think that sort of says it best right there, that Halloween has always sort of built in the buffer period where Halloween night is the climax. You sort of already have that. You can stretch it out over those few days leading up to Halloween and tell these stories into it. Like, just because it's a horror series about Michael Myers doesn't mean every episode needs 10 kills in it. If you build up each episode to a kill at the end, you can stretch this out over a few days and get your 8 episodes out of this where Michael's kill count is still in around 10, or the final episode, Halloween night, get more kills, but you can still have a solid kill count and have a good series, but still have it stretched out and have that, because like I would like if you make it more like the original and have it more about the shape, like you see Michael in the corner of your eye, you see him stalking after whoever the main character is. I think you get so much more play out of that than just building up to, trying to stretch one night over 8 episodes, which would be very difficult.
Excuse me. Before we go here, we're gonna close this thing out and outro everybody. Let them tell us what's up and what's going on in their lives. We have a final question. Simple. You don't have to give that long of an explanation. Scream or Elm Street? Which franchise do you prefer, Scream or Elm Street? Randy, we'll let you start, man.
Well, for me, it's Nightmare on Elm Street, just because it's what I grew up on. It's, the horror movies, whether it's Friday the 13th, Child's Play, Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street. Those are what I grew up on as a kid in the 80s.
Dare?
Nightmare on Elm Street 3 smokes anything Scream ever did.
Johnny?
If you have asked me this like a month ago, I wouldn't have been able to answer anything other than Elm Street, because I still hadn't seen like 3 of the Halloween movies, or 3 of the Scream movies. But heading into Halloween this year, I watched the entire Scream franchise, so I can actually answer this with some degree of certainty. And I'll still say that Elm Street is far superior, because like Jer said, Dream Warriors is one of the best horror films in existence.
I'll tuck my tail between my legs and say Scream for me. I prefer Scream over Elm Street.
Boo! Boo this man! Boo!
Yeah, we gotta hear some more. There we go.
Jesus.
That's the wrong franchise.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never been big on Freddy. Don't have a real good reason. Either way.
And yet you're the one that dragged me to see that crappy crappy Nightmare on Elm Street remake 10 years ago.
More than that now. Almost 15. So that's crazy. Crazy thoughts there. Jared, where can everybody find you at? What do you got going on, man?
You can find me on Facebook, Dark Match Drive Facebook page. Plenty of wrestling content posted daily. I also host a Google Drive full of wrestling content, 2,000 gigs for $10 a month. Hit me up if you're interested in that. We also have a Discord where we talk about live wrestling as it's happening. I also have an Instagram for Dark Match Drive where I post classic wrestling photos and all sorts of stuff.
It very nicely breaks up all the thirst traps I see on Instagram.
Randy, how about you, man? Where can everybody find you at?
I'm not on social media as much as I could be, but for the most part, if I'm going to do anything on social media, it's on Twitter / now X at Giggity Giles. Also, obviously, Tuesday nights with you fine gentlemen on the Legacy of Star Wars podcast. And obviously right now, since it's during football season, I do a sports / geek related podcast, pop culture, called The Sports Brew. We just basically talk sports, drink, and just go off the rails a lot more than what we did tonight.
This was a light night for the rails.
Yeah. Johnny, what are you, man? What do you got going on? What have you been playing?
Oh, you can find me here, there, and everywhere. What have I been playing?
With himself.
As he's not denying it.
Lately I've been playing with a streamer on Twitch. We've been playing Lethal Company a lot. That game is addicting. It is cheap. And it is fun.
I've heard a lot of good things about it.
I love it.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
I'm trying to convince myself not to buy Arc, the new Arc.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, have a great evening, everybody. Have a great weekend. Be safe. Weather's getting worse out there if you're in the northern part of the United States or up into Canada. And you can check us out Monday night, tonight in Haddonfield, 10 p.m. Eastern. Tuesday, The Legacy of Star Wars at 9 p.m. Eastern. Or next Wednesday, right here. Probably won't be a 2-hour show, but Welcome to the Geekside, 10 p.m. Eastern. We'll see if CM Punk's still employed by then. Until then, have a good night.